Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us at the Pullman Police Advisory Committee today, August 12th, 2019. We are going to take roll call, so I would like to start with Isabella down at the end.
I'm the Pullman High School student representative.
The multicultural representative.
Can you state your name,
David
too?
Macon.
Thank you.
Greg Wilson, Pioneer Hill.
Amira Al-Bakshi, GBSI.
Angie Center, WCU faculty staff.
Gwendolyn Rink, alternate Pullman High School representative.
Phyllis Stallcop, Sunnyside Hill representative.
I am Stephanie Rink. I am the Pullman School District parent and the chair of the committee.
Eric Tetzloff, Business Community.
Richard Hume, Pioneer Hill.
Adam Williams, Sunnyside Hill.
Gary Jenkins, Police Chief.
Joe Thornton, Pullman School District Representative.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. I assume everybody has read and are well versed in all the minutes from the last meeting, right? Yes. Any questions, comments, concerns, edits that anybody would like to bring up? You're all so well versed. Do we have a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Moving on. Chief Jenkins, would you like to give our annual report?
Sure. So if you don't have one of these, we have some more over here if you want to get some. These were just published. I'll actually be presenting this to the City Council tomorrow night. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over just a few of the highlights. I won't go over everything, but when I'm done, if there's an area that you have a question about or want more information about, I'd be happy to talk more about those. So starting on pages 3 and 4, those talk about crime statistics. The FBI is responsible for the reporting of all the crime in the United States, and by the end of 2021, they'll be requiring all law enforcement agencies to transition from what's been known as Uniform Crime Reporting, or UCR, to the National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS. So as of 2017, only 43% of U.S. law enforcement was NIBRS compliant. The state of Washington is currently 99% compliant, and the Pullman Police Department has been NIBRS compliant since about 2006. Page 4, you can see there's some comparisons to our changes from 2017 to 2018, and it compares Pullman and statewide changes. So we saw an increase in crimes against persons, but a decrease in all other crime. And our overall crime is down by 18.5% compared to 0.7% statewide. Page 5, there is a table of reported crimes that's divided into 3 categories. And this is the way that the FBI reporting has it divided by persons, property, and society. So under persons, crimes against persons, the one notable mention is our forcible sex offenses are at an all-time high. Under the property crimes, our biggest numbers are larceny or theft and vandalism, and both of those numbers are down. And our overall clearance rate is at an all-time high as well. So on page 6, these crime stats are shown in a chart and a graph. The bar chart shows our crime data cumulatively, and then each of the separate items of property, persons, and society is shown on separate lines on our bar or on the line graph. You can see that our overall Group A crimes have been trending down since 2015. On page 7, the top third of the table shows our top 12 calls for service. These are calls that really occupy a lot of our officers' time, and they typically are not part of the Group A crime stats. These are, with the exception of thefts. These are what I would call quality of life calls that we can respond to and assist the public because we do have a relatively low crime rate. The calls that are trending up are the disturbance, disorderly dispute calls, airport security requirement, which I'll talk about later, parking problems and welfare checks, and those that are trending down are animal-related and alcohol-intoxicated-related. Although our overall calls for service are down from last year, they're still second highest on record. Some of the numbers in the rest of the tables are impacted by staffing, as more staff can generate more productivity, such as parking and traffic infractions and warnings. On page 8 are response times. This is the first year we've reported response times. Our technology specialist, Brendan McNanny, has worked to identify the correct times to export from our CAD system, and then he excluded outliers to establish response times we're confident to report now. We divided calls into 4 categories: emergency, urgent, immediate, and non-urgent, and I provided examples of calls from each of those categories. The line graph and bar chart show average response times for each of the years shown. I wasn't surprised to see that we were on average quicker on urgent calls than emergency calls, although they're very close. And on those 2 types of calls, I wouldn't expect to see much variation from year to year because those are so immediate. Those are calls that need immediate attention, and so whatever an officer's doing, they'll generally break free and go on those calls. So those should remain fairly constant and low. Most of the quality of life calls are included in the immediate and non-urgent calls, and we're seeing an upward trend in both of those categories. And these response times are mostly impacted by staffing, volume of calls, and types of calls officers are handling. For example, a call with a mental health element can tie up an officer for a number of hours, reducing the number of staff available to respond to other calls. Skip over to page 12, let's discuss training. We place training on a high priority. I believe training makes our staff more competent, professional, and effective, and is an investment in our people. It's worth noting that on average, our officers receive nearly 3 times the annual amount of training required by the state. Page 13 is our DARE School Resource Officer program. This continues to be a very popular program, not only with the students, but also with their parents and school officials. Page 16 begins discussion about other programs. So airport security, we provide the federally mandated law enforcement presence for outgoing commercial flights. And as the airport grows, we'll need to ensure we have the capacity to maintain the mandated presence. The airport is applying for a grant to bring another airline into the airport, which right now looks like it may be United with 2 flights going to Denver. So that will add on to the number of outgoing flights from our airport. Page 18 is our prescription drug collection program. That continues to grow. Also on page 18, you'll see that public records requests, we saw a decline starting in since 2016. We did have legislation passed in 2016 that limited the release of body camera video, so that likely contributed to the decline. Page 20, we have information about our website and social media, and our social media presence and reach continues to grow. We found that social media has been a very effective way to exchange information with the public, as well as to humanize our police officers. Page 21 is our outreach efforts. We've done a fairly good job with our current staffing levels, but as we add more staff, our capacity for community outreach will increase. Maintaining and enhancing community trust is critical to crime prevention and solving crime, both of which require community cooperation and support. Page 24 is a report about the Police Advisory Committee. Our committee has been very active and vibrant, and in 2018, our committee membership reached the fewest number of constituency vacancies. And then lastly, on pages 26 and 27, lists a number of significant events. A couple I'll just point out is in January was a Tyler Helinski suicide, and October was ESPN College Game Day. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has about what's in the report.
I have a question. Looking back at the response times, do you know why, or are you doing anything to make sure that the emergencies go lower than the urgent? We're
still analyzing why the the urgent or has less response time than emergency. It could just be that the number of calls are less, and so it kind of might skew the numbers because there's less amount to choose from, but we're going to look at that and see why that is.
Did you ask about emergency versus urgent?
Yeah.
Looks like it's 10 or 20 seconds difference. That doesn't seem like a substantial difference in time.
I don't know, 10 to 20 seconds could be substantial if your life is dependent on it.
And we're also going to reevaluate how we divided these up to make sure that our emergency calls are the ones that we're driving essentially code 3 on, and including some of those in the urgent calls. So we're going to figure that out.
And so is this response time strictly for the police? Is
Yes.
that correct? Okay, yes. Now, can you remind me, offense is clear or cleared, can you remind me what that means?
So a cleared offense is by, usually by arrest. So a suspect's been identified and arrested, or a suspect's been identified and there's a specific reason why someone hasn't been arrested.
No.
David, you can probably help on this question too, about clearance, what is a clearance? Those are generally the majority of the clearances.
Just arrested, so there's arrested by exceptions, there's exceptional means, there's a lot of different categories. But it basically means somebody, there's some suspect that's been arrested.
Someone's been identified and either they've been, there's been charges brought against them or there's a specific reason why charges have been.
So it doesn't mean they've been prosecuted. So it just means the police have done their side and then it
Right.
turns it over to the courts.
Okay.
So it looks like your drug seized has been down. Is that accurate
Is that
to
under
say?
the task force?
Under,
Is that where you're looking?
yeah, one city.
Yeah,
board.
this, so,
Page 14.
right, so we didn't have anyone actively in that task force in 2018 because of our staffing. So essentially, we just maintain communication with them and we pass along information about potential drug dealers or drug activity in Pullman. So, the task force has been down staffing because other agencies have been in a similar position and not been able to staff it. So I know their staffing has been down and has some impact on their cases.
What's the difference between robbery and burglary?
So burglary is like going into a structure, and a robbery is when you take something from somebody.
Oh, I had no idea.
So burglary isn't necessarily stealing something, it's just entering without permission, basically.
Usually it's stealing
Structure.
something, but it can also be entering to commit another type of a crime as well.
What is chain parking?
So that is when somebody has like parked downtown and before their 2 hours is up, they go and park somewhere else downtown, but the cumulative time is beyond 2 hours, but each spot is less than 2 hours.
And any explanation for that spike in 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Traffic or parking enforcement? Is that a staffing, reflection on staffing? I'm looking on page 7. By the way, unless I'm out checking road conditions to run buses, I'm usually sound asleep.
So I'm,
3 a.m. and 6 a.m.
I'm trying to remember when Evolve was finished and in full, but the Evolve has had a huge impact on the 3 to 6 a.m. parking. And also our, I think that accounts for that. And I believe Evolve has been here a year now.
So that's residents parking on the street?
Right.
Okay. Trying to avoid paying for a parking pass for their parking structure?
Well, there's not quite enough parking there. They charge for their parking, I believe, in Evolve, and so even with that, there's not enough parking available for the amount of cars.
They have more residents than parking spots.
that the case all over Pullman.
Chief, are you able to separate out proactive versus reactive calls? Or I should say calls being reactive and the proactive, so officer-initiated contacts?
We can on some things, and that's something that we're working on trying to get a better handle on the stats. Actually, my technology specialist, this is a little bit beyond what his job description is, but he's really good with this stuff. So I had him working on the response time, and that actually sounds like a simple task, but it took a number of months to figure out how to get the numbers that we're confident with. And officer initiated is one thing that I've wanted to get some stats on, because that definitely will tell a story about where we are staffing wise and our ability to be proactive versus reactive. So that is a project that we're going to be working on. And maybe there's some other resources we have available to work on.
Any other questions or comments?
Are you going to be mapping these out relative to where they occur in Pullman?
I mean, that's possible. I'm not sure. Well, I know what, it depends what you're looking for. So, as you know, if we look at certain types of crimes, we'll see one particular area that's very active. But yeah, these are all mappable.
Well, I just asked because when you think about, increases or decreases relative to where, kind of contextually, what would explain that? So we might think that a crime is actually increasing, and it might be the proximity, right? The context is there. So being able to do that with, Evolve on Main or any of the other places, thinking about that place-based offending.
Yeah, it would be great to be able to layer all these. Yeah. And I think once we I think we'll have the increased ability to do that when we get the GIS up and running.
Any other further comments, questions, concerns?
This is a work of art. Well done.
Darby put all of this stuff together. I sent her all the raw stuff, and she put it all together, so she does a pretty good job with that.
You're a serious reader to children. This picture, take a look at it.
Yeah, I found one with a lot of pictures, so.
It's so funny, it says snort next to your head.
So I actually make sounds when I read that.
Oh, that's cool.
That was actually my favorite childhood book, so I read that every year at the.
That's Are You My Mother, right?
Mother.
That's a great picture.
I read that to you when you were little.
You don't remember?
I know, right? Yeah.
I had a question for the chief. Why was 2017 such a high increase, looking like between 2016 and 2018?
What page are you on?
7.
Oh, and so you're looking at which number, I'm sorry?
I'm just looking at the direct, 2017. Yeah.
So why the increase in calls for service? It seems.
From 2016 to 2017? Is that what you're asking?
Throughout the 2016 through 2017, 2018, what happened between those years to make it go down 2017 but rise up again in 2018, you think? Yeah.
So I'm looking at the calls for service where it looks like it went up in 2017 and down in 18. Are you looking at a different row?
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, what I would say is from 2012 up through 2017 has been a regular increase every year. And I attribute that to just the population increase and the growth in Pullman. Why the total number of calls went down in 2018, I suspect some of the calls that we include here are officer initiated calls, and it goes to the point that Dr. Macon was asking about trying to identify those, because we were very low in staffing in 2018, and so those officer-initiated calls go way down. And so that likely impacted what it shows as a call for service, because even though our officer-initiated calls, a lot of those show up as a call for service when they generate the call. So that's why we went down in 2018. But I think we'll continue to see a trend of those total calls continue to go up as Pullman grows.
Anything else? Great, thank you.
The overall decrease in DUI numbers is encouraging.
Well, sometimes, and that's also a factor of staffing. So that doesn't mean necessarily.
Doesn't mean there's less drunk drivers on the road.
We just have less capacity to be out there
Gotcha.
looking for them.
If you put that side by side with accidents as well, it'd be interesting to see how there's a correlation between the accidents that we're seeing.
Right, well, we do have accident stat here, I believe, traffic collisions, and they were down this year compared to last year. But overall, those are trending up as well.
Are you ever going to think about putting in red light cameras?
It's been discussed, so I mean that's a possibility in the future. We haven't had a serious discussion with this with the mayor or city administrator about that. He actually asked me to do some research on it, and I did. And there's definitely some pros and cons to those. I know there's some places where they were using them and they're discontinuing them. I know other places where they're adding more. So, I mean, that can be a topic perhaps we could discuss at one of our meetings and talk about the pros and cons of that.
I know Grand and Main could be a really good revenue source for red light runs, in case you're wondering.
That's one of the issues though, right? Is that it's not supposed to be used to generate revenue or to offset. It's supposed to be for public safety. And so a lot of places, municipalities put them in with a specific purpose. And
That
they
hopefully
adjust,
would go down, but
they don't though. They adjust
Yeah.
red light timings. That's one of the biggest lawsuits was that they adjusted red light timings so they could, the yellow light, so they could generate more funds.
oh,
Yeah,
that would be
right?
bad.
Like, it's a slippery slope at the very moment because now you have a way to offset revenue generation, but criminal justice isn't supposed to generate revenue. Or we're supposed to lose money.
And we actually don't get much revenue from traffic infractions. Most of it goes to the court. And I don't even look to see how much money that is because I don't want to have that be a factor in our decisions about where and what we do traffic enforcement. It should all be about reducing accidents and public safety.
I think there's going to be an accident pretty soon on that run, just because I now know before I go, when it turns green, before I go, I wait, because 9 times out of 10, there's a car that goes through.
Is that coming from Maine on to Grand, or?
Yeah, I'm at Maine going up
Oh,
Maine,
okay.
and so
Grand people.
Grand is running that light all the time.
And we are entering into the season where people are driving south on Grand and turn left onto Main. We're entering into that season.
Yeah.
All the new people, all the,
Yeah, that happened to me, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, you can't come down here.
Yeah.
See, I'm going this way.
And you honk your horn, you flash your lights, and they drive part way down Main, they say, wait a minute, all the cars are pointing in my direction, something's wrong here.
sometimes I see people do that. I don't know whether they're just trying to turn around or whether they realize their mistake and therefore turn and then head north again. So I don't know, but
Okay, last call for annual report. Going once, going twice. Thank you very much. Okay, next order of business is the Lentil Festival, which is happening this Friday and Saturday, but we are only concerned about Friday. But please come on Saturday and support the rest of the town doing things on Saturday, whatever we're doing. So our board is over there. Darby sent an email to everybody asking for any type of input if we needed to change. And so if you wanted to see it in person, it's there. If you need anything changed. I know I gave her a couple things and she was working on some stuff, so I'm sure she got that all done. But if you wanted to look and have any suggestions, please feel free. And then we have the people who are signed up to assist from 3:35. I am setting up with one of our officers, which I can't remember her name, sorry.
Lambley.
Yes. And then 5 to 6, we have David and Eric. 6 to 7, we have David and Eric again. 7 to 8, we have Adam and Eric. 8 to 9, we have Philippe and Adam. And then 9 to 10 is Angela. Are there anybody else who would like to sign up for assisting?
We're glad for plenty of people.
What?
Glad for plenty of people.
Well, I mean, you know, you guys might need like a water run, right? But if you do, when does Darby get back? Is she gone this whole week?
No, she'll be back next Monday.
Oh. So if you'd like to sign up, let me know. Other than that.
Do you get, Chief, are you getting emails? If we were to email Darby, would you get them or no?
No, I wouldn't get them.
Okay.
He
So-
checks her email.
It should work the other way around. She sees his email. Because these are the important ones.
Boy, I wish,
That was true.
that sounds like a darn good idea.
Yeah.
If someone wants to come, but just show up.
Yeah, if anybody else come, yeah, just show up. I don't know where we're gonna be, but somewhere down there. We'll be sending
We're
out.
normally across from the beer garden.
Yeah.
That makes it nice and handy.
Makes sense to have the police across from the beer garden.
That's right, so you guys can do water runs, correct? Water runs, yeah. Anything else on the Lentil Festival you think of? Any questions or comments about the Lentil Festival that I may or may not be able to answer? Great, moving on. Future meeting topics. Did Darby leave you with anything about this?
She did not.
So the only thing that I brought to Darby, and I don't know if she sent it to you, was a meeting or presentation from you guys, which I don't know if you do anyways, on apps.
Oh, she did, yes, and I have someone that can do that presentation. Well, it sounded like you wanted to have it more than just a meeting. You wanted to have like a public event that was.
Yeah, it could either be, doesn't matter what, but I just thought it would be, I happened to see another, I don't remember what city, what sheriff's or police station or whoever did it. I'm not sure where it was, but I happened to see them on the news with this, they did a most bad ad, that was a much better topic, but the worst apps that kids have on their phones these days that are, they hide things behind, I'm talking to you three, children. So I think that would be really good.
So he has a presentation that he can do whatever time you want, but he can do like an hour presentation if that's something that you would want to do, and then we could invite the public. Is
Yeah.
that what you were looking
Yeah,
for?
I think that would be really good. Do you guys all think so?
I will see if we can schedule him for, you want to try to schedule it for next meeting if he's available?
Sweet.
And then we can do a news release on it and market it.
Yeah.
One
Yeah.
question, and maybe, so it's like next meeting is off and we talk, or sort of debrief for Lentil Festival. Now, that may not take for long, I don't know. I just throw that out, we want to make sure we don't over-schedule something, so we can always push that to the next meeting if we want to, too. So.
I can get through the Lentil Festival in 5 minutes if you want to. And she knows how I run meetings. I'm pretty good at running through meetings pretty quickly. Adam knows too.
If we're able to schedule someone come speak, then we can always push our normal agenda items anyway.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And if it's an hour, we still have half an hour after.
That's right, and we can get through everything in half hour. Any other ideas for topics for meetings?
So, you mentioned the idea of red light cameras. Do you have will that be like a presentation thing or more of a public input thing?
Well, we're not at a point where we're going to ask for public input if we're not seriously.
Yeah, right,
So,
right.
it could be, I could put together some information just about the pros and cons of it and to generate a discussion here and
Is that something?
see how the committee felt about it.
You don't want to fill up the audience for no reason?
We can, I mean, we
It might
will,
make people know that we're here and be lively.
we'll announce the topic for the meeting.
Yeah.
And so, if that's of interest to some people in the public, that may get some people here.
Maybe, yeah. I think it'd be good. Any other topics that you guys want to see? Angie, do you have something?
Yeah, I have a couple. What about like concealed weapons permits, gun-free zones, just what's going on in that? That seems to be kind of a hot topic on everybody's mind lately.
Yeah, it'd be good.
Especially because WSU police can't
Yeah.
hold the students'
We can't do
weapons
those
anymore.
student weapons
Yeah.
anymore, yeah.
What does that mean?
So like our weapons laws.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just.
So
what
when
is a
students bring
concealed
their guns over to campus, because like some of them will hunt or whatever,
Right.
they would hold them at the WSU police station, and they can't
Do
do
that
that anymore.
They can't do that
Why
anymore
not?
because of the
Yeah,
new
the
background check
changes.
law for possession.
They have to
So
go
it's
through a
not
process. for
entirely how
return.
that law's written, so quite understand it, but
I think
In
we're
order
allowed
to
to have
do
them
a
on
background
WC.
check to get the gun back.
I don't think we can have them on WSU campus.
you cannot have them on WSU's campus. So the reason why WSU police had student guns were for students that lived on campus. So if you lived in a res hall or fraternity sorority,
right.
you could not legally have your gun in your possession in your residence, so it was stored in the gun vault at WSU police.
But
That
now
would-
you're saying they don't do that anymore?
They can't do that anymore in the state of Washington. Now there's a new background check procedure for gun possession. And so,
That would be a really good topic.
yeah, so they
I
can't
know,
do it anymore.
well, I know my husband's really, he's really confused on that whole thing too, on the whole law.
Yeah, so that would be a good one. Gun-free
So gun
zones,
law topic.
what makes a gun-free zone, what doesn't.
And even that whole possession thing, you know? I don't know.
That whole open carry concept.
No, but even just this whole, the law about possession and transfer and all that stuff.
Like if you break into my house and
No,
steal one of mine,
well,
go do
there's-
something, I get in
Yeah,
trouble.
You're
There's
not
that,
liable
but
for that?
you gotta have
Yeah.
gun locks and safes and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
that's a good point.
No, that's part of the new law. If you
Oh,
broke
yeah.
into my house and stole my firearm, I'm now liable for that.
Yeah.
Because I
Unless-
didn't get a background check
Unless,
from you.
well, but no, you have to somehow secure it.
Yeah, but I
Even
think
if it's secured,
even
you can break
secured.
into my gun safe and
But see, I
I
think
know,
that's
but
why we need to have.
that's
those
where it's
topics. I
like,
thought That'd be
I'm-
good to be able to
Yes.
explore and get some clarity over different things. Because I know it's very confusing.
And then maybe something on like the school resource officers, and I know Pullman Schools just did quite a bit in terms of their school safety and check-in systems and
We had,
things like that.
so we had the school resource officer.
Did you? Maybe I wasn't there with that one.
We
Like a
did,
couple of times ago.
yeah, a
I
couple
think it was
weeks
last
ago.
meeting, and because I wasn't here.
Was
it
Scott
last
Patrick
meeting?
was here.
Either last one or time before.
It was in the minutes.
It was when Gary wasn't here, so.
It was last meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, when we go around the room too, you can update us on some of the school features too. But that, I mean, that would be good too. That's always good to bring him back anyways. And that's one thing also, I'd like to have these two connect with them too on a regular basis as well. Any other awesome topics we'd like to see? No?
So the last one that you were talking about, is it school safety that you want to talk about?
Yeah, because I know that was one thing, we were, like, is it Kemiak? The new
The
Falcon
new
School?
elementary schools, Kamiak.
You guys put in those new safety features, and I know I asked her like, oh, what does Lincoln Middle School have? And I'm like, oh, it's great that we're gonna do this for this, what does Lincoln have? Well, Lincoln doesn't have anything right now, but we hopefully will pass something. So knowing about the school safety stuff, I think that would be really good. Yeah. that?
Yeah, I can just give you an update on that right now if you want.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah. So when Pullman High School was remodeled, it now has a controlled entrance, meaning that once school starts, the main doors are closed. This is locked. This is assuming a student doesn't put a rock in there, which they do. So that anybody coming to the school after that has to come through the main office. You can't get into the school without going through the office. That office door is locked. People can just walk into the office, but you can't get further into the school without going past somebody. Kamiak was designed in a similar way, where once school starts, the doors are locked, and then once you come into the school, the only way into the school is into the office, and then that would give you access to the rest of the school. So we added at Sunnyside, Jefferson, and Franklin this year electronic locks, which will do a similar thing. So at Franklin and Jefferson, which have a similar architecture, you're going to come in through the first set of outside doors into vestibule, but you can't get into the building itself until somebody buzzes you in. And there's a window right there from the office into the vestibule. We'll have an intercom system. Sunnyside's a little more complicated because when you walk into Sunnyside, this was built long before we were worried about bad things happening in schools. You walk into the Sunnyside foyer, you could go to 4 different places. You can go to the kindergarten classroom, you can go into the gymnasium or to the multi-purpose room, you can go to the office, or you can go into the wing that gets you into all the classrooms. So that now has a system that has all those doors locked electronically. So that means the secretary can buzz you into any of those doors. Most people will come to the main office and get buzzed to the office and either get a visitor's badge or say, I'm just here to drop off my son's lunch, or I'm just here to pick up that form. So essentially we're just controlling access, because it used to be that people could walk into the school and then walk down a hallway, maybe without somebody knowing they're there.
Like Lincoln at the moment.
Like Lincoln at the moment, yeah.
So that's controlling access from the outside in, is that right?
Correct, that's correct.
So can anyone at will open the door and walk out then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fire department make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Which also means that they can open the door to other people too.
Which is a learning curve, to encourage people to know, okay, you don't open the door. Yeah, if you see, Lincoln Middle School, you see a teacher walking in with a couple arms full of books, yeah, you can open the door for the teacher. But you don't just open the door for somebody.
Okay.
And then the new safety stuff for Lincoln, that's being put on the ballot?
That would be incorporated if we do if we're able to pass a bond, that would be incorporated with the remodel. Because that bond would probably very significantly change the main office, because we're going to probably need, one of the most critical things to do at Lincoln is to expand the commons, and the most logical place to expand the commons is to the west, and that would involve having to change that main entrance altogether, and that whole office altogether.
Is Kamiak going to be open this semester?
Yes, it is. Yep.
They have a wonderful library. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. We're doing a ribbon cutting for Kamiak on Thursday at 6. And we'll have basically an open house and tours after that.
So I just came from Lincoln Middle School, and I remember exactly there was possibly 5 exits, and I remember you could walk out in the middle of the school day, and then you could open those any of those doors except for 2, I believe. And I didn't think that was much very safe. So I think we need to bring middle school up, because we're remodeling the elementary schools, but we're not focusing on where all the elementary schools go into much.
So are you saying at Lincoln that you could open the doors from the outside?
Yes.
To come in?
Yes.
At all times during the day, or just in the morning?
It would depend on the times.
Yeah.
I don't remember much about it, but I remember exactly when my first period started, I would go outside and then come back in with ease.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to talk to Mr. Groh about that, because at Lincoln, the only 2 doors that should be unlocked on the main entrance and then the library side.
Yeah.
So that students who are getting off the bus can come into the school that way. Once school starts, that library door should be locked.
I don't really remember it being locked at times.
Mr. Grows in trouble. Thank you for that update. Any other ideas for future meeting topics?
So the ones that we have, I'll go over them, then I'm just going to ask if you have a preference of the order that you want these in. So I'm going over some apps, which would be like an hour presentation, a discussion about red light cameras, and a discussion about the new weapons laws.
Yeah. I think the app should come first, one, just because that, school's gonna be in session, and then the weapons one will be in October, given that hunting season is just right around the corner.
One other question I would just throw out. So I know at times in the past there have been attempts to get people from WSU Police in. I don't remember the last time we did that or if that's ever been successful in the last few years, but do you remember?
We used to have their advisory committee meet with us.
Right. So we used
once a year, which it's disbanded, but they are getting one up and running.
So that hasn't happened for for quite a few years. I don't think as long as I've been here that we've ever actually had a joint meeting. But I know a couple of times we got like an officer or a chief or someone to come and
To give an update on WSU related stuff.
But I don't know if there's any.
I can ask someone from WSU Police to come and give a presentation.
Is there any point on that or not?
Actually, I think that would be really good.
Yeah.
It'd be good to hear from WSU to see what they're doing.
I
found it interesting that the crane collapsed and they weren't notified. I found that interesting today.
When did it collapse?
This morning. Especially at the deadly crane collapsing in Seattle. Not all of
Which
it.
one collapsed?
The one.
That plant sign.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It was like at 6:30 or something?
Yeah,
something this morning?
6:30 in the morning.
The fire department or the police department weren't notified.
Yeah.
Did the construction people know?
Well, I'm assuming they knew.
So what kind of direction do you want me to give them on what to talk about? Just,
it'll be past football season.
I'd be very interested in cooperation between the Pullman Police and the University Police. There's a major lawsuit pending in Salt Lake City right now about that.
Yeah, that is a good point.
In the spirit of like the town and gown thing.
and I'll also ask them to talk about some of their requirements that we don't have, such as the Clery Act, that they have to do a significant amount of reporting as well, so. Right.
You think of any other topics? Coroner's office was pretty awesome to bring in. That's pretty cool. What? Coroner. So when somebody dies.
How about, has Whitcomb, our Regional Dispatch Center, have they ever done a presentation? I don't think they, have they?
Yeah, I think they did.
Do we have any record of all the past? Does Darby have a record?
We have minutes from all the prior meetings. And really, the presentations that we've been receiving for the last year or so are, I think, relatively new for this committee. I mean, it was not a regular thing before.
Well, before Corey, we really didn't have much by way of presentations. So,
so I think anything's game, regardless of even if we had it a couple of years ago.
Right. I know back under Corey, some of the things we talked about as things would be great to do almost yearly or every couple of years or something, but the problem is I don't quite remember what some of them were, so. So I was wondering, but, yeah.
Has code enforcement been in here recently?
I haven't seen code
I
enforcement.
think that would be good.
Not
We
since
have-
you hired the new ones.
Huh?
Not since you hired their new ones.
Yeah, so we have really a team now, because we have a working code enforcement supervisor with 3 code enforcement officers.
Yeah.
And they're really going to be able to have a lot more of an impact than they have in the past. So I think that would be a good one too.
Yeah, that would actually be good.
Wow. So if nobody else has any other ideas, if you have any ideas, send them to Darby, and she'll get back to you when she gets back. So at this time, how about we do a constituencies poll? And we'll just start with Joe again.
Well, I kind of gave you an update on some of the security stuff for the Pullman School District. And other than that, just an emphasis that kids are going to be walking to school and biking to school, so hopefully drivers are aware of that and will adjust their driving accordingly.
What's the first day of school?
First day of school is the 28th, 2 weeks from Wednesday.
And Chief, I know that sometimes you have like officers out the first couple day or so of school. Do you know if you have any plans on that, or?
Yeah, the first day of school, we have our patrol officers do an emphasis on the areas around the schools.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
For Sunnyside, I don't know that I have any updates.
How did the National Night Out go on Sunnyside?
National Night Out,
Yeah.
I was in there,
Oh.
but I imagine it went just fine.
Pioneer Hill, I don't know if it's a citywide problem or not, but a warning to pet owners. I walk my dog 3 times a day. I've encountered coyotes at Koppel and at the city playfield, and I've seen them from my kitchen window in Lawson Gardens. And when I say them, I've seen one several times. I don't know if it's the same one, but in daylight and so on. I think they're around.
Would you rather encounter a coyote walking your dog or a skunk?
I'd like to avoid both.
I would rather have a coyote.
I'd rather have a coyote.
Yeah.
How about a raccoon? I did run into a raccoon the other day. He just stared at me.
And you never know if it's the same one when it's a raccoon.
New York's having a big raccoon problem right now. I
New
guess
York
so.
is? Really?
The city, yeah.
I haven't seen a raccoon over here. We saw them all over in Vancouver. Never saw them. I've never seen them.
Well, I run into them under the bridge in city playfield in the morning when I'm walking my dog. Yeah, they're down there by the river quite often.
Oh.
Early morning, at nighttime, that's amazing.
Are there more people in Pullman, I guess, that are, that are homeless right now, just because it's summer? I'm running around, I've ran into a bunch of people, but it's just because it's summer.
I don't know that there's more now than any other time.
There always seems to be someone down on the bench by the river behind the accounting firm.
You know, we have people that we regularly run into that end up moving from place to place.
Yeah.
What is our population?
The homeless population. Couldn't tell you. There's a handful of people that we run into regularly.
I know we have one in our building.
We don't have a shelter,
Well,
a permanent shelter. Every now and then I
right,
hear of a
Community Action
temporary.
Center is set up to provide assistance to people that want help.
Yeah.
And usually the people that we regularly run into are those that
They're not
don't
gonna
want help.
Yeah.
Or have already abused the system enough that they're not getting any more help.
Sure.
So, I guess Eric touched off business. I don't really have anything to report. I've been trying to get some work done up on campus lately, and it's pretty busy up there with lots of all the students All the freshmen at least coming back, so, up there, so, but,
That's all?
yeah.
Well, for a Pullman School District parent, my daughter starts high school. I just cry. My other one, that's sitting over there. Her first day of middle school. Just gonna cry. That's all I have.
I have nothing to report, and I can add to Adam that I assume that the National Night Out went fine, because I wasn't there either.
I went hill hopping that night and made it to all of them, and so there were people at each one of them. I think last year was better attended than this year. I don't know why that is, but.
I didn't know it was going on this year. I was there last year, but I'd missed it. I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, I think they were a lot more intentional about their marketing last year because it was the first year. And I don't think they did as good a job marketing it this year.
I know I knew about it when I was in Seattle. I was like, oh, well, but I was testing, so I couldn't go. Gwendolyn, do you have anything to report as the new high school student?
I don't know. I don't know really anything about the high school right now. I just know that the orientation is tomorrow for freshmen.
Oh, well, that's something to report. Good. Thank you.
WSU is busy, as I'm sure you've all noticed, so just be nice, please, to all of our poor incoming students, even students that were here last year. Pullman changes so much year to year. I mean, there's whole new apartment complexes this year that didn't exist last May, so they are going to turn the wrong way on the one-way, they're going to park in your way, they're going to walk in your way. They'll figure it out, we always do, so just kind of be nice, smile, point in the direction that they should go.
Don't run them over. Walk
Don't
out
run them over. Our week of welcome activities are the 15th and the 16th of this week, so that's when you're really going to see them hit hard and heavy. We kind of had a busy week like we already talked about. We have no gun storage up at WSU. I don't know how that will impact certain things because we actually do have shooting sports as club sports for the Pac-12, so we'll have to see what happens in terms of that. We did have the crane fall. That was our second major construction accident at WSU. The second in like 2 weeks. I don't know what the third one was.
I think this year. That was like the Evergreen just mentioned as third.
Yeah, we had a construction crew member fall from the Global Animal Health construction site with some injuries, and then obviously lost the crane this morning or yesterday morning, couldn't tell. So I think we'll be having some safety meetings through FAC Ops as terms of what's going on in there. I'm sure we'll have a student fall out a window too, because that's what they like to do at the beginning of the school year. So that'll probably be very exciting.
So on that topic, the fire department did some training at one of the cranes responding to a medical emergency of a crane operator and then trying to getting the person down to an ambulance. So they're trained in responding to something at those really high structures.
Well, it's a very low-lying structure now.
now.
Just pick him right up off the ground.
Hopefully it doesn't sustain injuries when you fell. When nobody was in there. But.
Nobody was in there when it happened.
Been literally stuck in my office all day.
In regard
This is very
to safety
normal.
issues, what's going on with that investigation about the rescuing of people in the flood?
I just know that State L&I is doing an investigation. I don't know the status of it or the result. I suspect they'll report the result when they're completely done.
It does look like they've kind of cleared that Missouri Flat Creek by the pot shop there. I guess that was a big cause of the flooding, some trees in the creek or something like that. It looks like they've done some major stuff there.
Oh, there's a building gone.
Yeah, that full car wash.
Yeah.
GBSA, nothing to report.
Richard covered Pioneer Hill, there are very few cats running around the neighborhood.
I suppose fewer rabbits. But remember, a couple of years ago, I came out to walk the dog, and there was a coyote stuck in your fence there.
Yeah, the officers knocked on my door at 5 a.m. Can we go in your backyard? There's a coyote stuck on your fence. That was a weird call.
Interesting.
They got him off, and he ran off.
Yeah.
I noticed a definite spike in the number of coyote calls in there. That was not a set cap.
That's an animal code.
Nothing to report in terms of multicultural.
Nothing to report except for, I guess, we're getting our schedules tomorrow, that's it, and tours around school. DHS soon.
Great. Public comment? Do any of our 2 people in the public would like to speak? Forever hold your peace.
Till next meeting.
Until next meeting, that's right. Our next meeting is September 9th, and we are going to check to see if we can have a presentation on the apps that parents should all know about.
Maybe we should just call it cybersecurity or something.
Besides just the apps.
The apps.
Well, there's a much better, the city that put it on, they had a much better name, but I can't remember what it was.
It's like the apps your kids are looking at that you need to know about.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Some of the stuff that I had known.
There's an app for that.
Maybe.
An app that will tell you what the bad apps are.
I'm sure there is. Okay, anything else before we adjourn a good 34 minutes early?
If anyone wants to do the Lentil Festival, I'm willing to give up one of my shifts.
I'm sorry, but your name is already on here. You can't
Twice.
give up your, well,
I'm just
We
saying,
applaud
one of
you.
them can
We
go.
can always use more people, as long as you don't have the whole committee on there.
I asked the National Weather Service for a specific forecast for Friday and Saturday. So I should have that tomorrow, so I'll send it out to you when I get it.
wow, very specific. As long as
There
it's
was
not like
one year it was
thundering and
hail.
lightning
It
and,
was
Or
horrible.
the one that they just sent out today included wind and rain and thunder, but it was a regional area. So they can narrow that down to Pullman and at least give us what their prediction is.
It's funny, Saturday it was downpouring up on McCroskey Ridge, hailing, lightning, wind. And Pullman, from what I hear, was not much compared to that.
we had thunder
Yeah, a little bit.
When?
Saturday.
Yeah, they canceled.
Because we can go golf because of the storm.
go play soccer.
Yeah, you can't go soccer either. Well, on that note, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Great, we'll see you all at the Lentil Festival.